Good evening all, and welcome. Tonight, we are once again diving into the horrific world of exes, something I'm sure many of us would rather leave in the past. But anyway, it's time to get comfortable and let the darkness take control. A few years ago, my best friend convinced me into getting a Tinder account. I had been single for about a year and a half, after finally getting out of a 3-year abusive relationship. But that's a whole story for another time. So I thought, why not? I'll make an account, and if I don't like it, I'll delete it. What harm could it do? Little did I know. I was blown away with how many guys messaged me. I think we have a hard time admitting that it's a bit of a confidence booster. Anyway, I had been talking to this one guy that I found very attractive, and we seemed to have a lot in common. So, I finally agreed to meeting up with him, but only if it was in public. So after a little bit of back and forth, we agreed on him coming to my work during my lunch, and to just hang out for a little bit. I was working at a grocery store in the deli, so I went back to taking orders and helping customers. When about 45 minutes later, I noticed this man staring at me. He was wearing sunglasses, which already made him stand out since we were inside, but I automatically knew it was him. I wasn't sure what to do. It seemed like he wanted to stay hidden from me. Do I call him out and say hi? I ended up just ignoring it and justifying it as, he's probably just coming in to make sure I am who I say I am. But looking back, that's just giving myself too much credit. I'm no model or anything like that. I'd say that I'm average looking and on the chunky side, with some confidence issues. After he left, I thought maybe he didn't like what I looked like in person, and that's why he came to check me out first. But now I know better. So about 2 hours later he texts me. I'm just outside, and I reply that I'm just clocking out and that I'll meet him up the front. It was the exact same guy as before, without the sunglasses this time. I still didn't bring it up or tell him that I saw him earlier. It just felt awkward. I always gave people the benefit of the doubt and tried to justify their actions. Lunch went really well, and I really liked him, so I ended up just forgetting about the situation earlier. I told him that I wanted to take things slow. He seemed to be totally okay with that. We both really liked the Jazz, the Salt Lake baseball team. So he ended up inviting me over to his house to watch the game after I got off work. My coworker and friend told me he had a bad feeling about everything, but I just told him that I'd be fine and that I'm a big girl. We both laughed, and I was on my way to his house. When I got there, he informed me he had a roommate, but that he was not currently at home, so it would just be the two of us. The night was going really well, until he said he needed the bathroom. Before I go any further, I need to explain his living room a little. Right when you walk in, the TV is near the front door. The living room and kitchen don't have a wall in between them. It was just one big space, and the couch was placed in between, so it wasn't against a wall. Sitting on the couch, you are facing the front door, and the kitchen is behind you. I hear him open up the door, and as I continue to watch the game, I feel him come up from behind the couch and put his hands on my shoulder, down to my hands, and he lifts them up and behind me. I thought he was just goofing around, so I went with it, until he starts making my hands go lower, when I suddenly feel his junk. Shocked, I bolted up, turned around and see him butt naked, his member in all its glory, with the most serious look on his face, his bright blue eyes just slicing into me. I just felt dread. All I could think to say was, what are you doing? Not changing his expression, in a monotone voice he replies, what do you think? I just came here to watch the game and hang out with you. You don't just come over to a guy's house you met on Tinder, not expecting to hook up. Shocked and disgusted, I reply that I made it very clear I wanted to take things slow. This is not slow. Fuming mad, he walked around the couch and started yelling at me, calling me a tease. And at that point, I just wanted to get out. So I grabbed my purse from beside the couch and started to walk towards the door. When he saw what I was doing, he ran up to the door, locked both locks, and stood there, still naked, telling me that I'm not leaving until I slept with him. Still in shock, I laugh, thinking he must be joking. This went on for 2 hours. I would go towards the door and he would push me away or grab the doorknob, telling me no. I'm in survival mode now, racking my brain on what to do. My phone is dead. I don't know this area, and it's been 2 hours, and he still isn't letting me go. I honestly felt like he was going to hurt me if I didn't do what he said. So I finally told him, okay, but only if you let me go to the bathroom to freshen myself up. He had me go into his bathroom in his bedroom and said he's gonna make us dinner and drinks, acting like nothing happened, like he didn't spend the last 2 hours yelling at me, holding me against my will until I slept with him. I just sat in there, trying to get my phone to turn on, knowing it was fully dead and I could no way contact anyone for help. But then I remembered, when he was showing me his apartment, he showed me his balcony that was shared with his neighbors. I put my ear up to the bathroom door, and I hear that he is still in the kitchen making drinks. I open the bathroom door slowly, praying he doesn't walk in or hear me come out. I slowly tiptoe across the bedroom to the patio when I hear him yell, "Are you kidding me?" I felt my heart sink to my stomach. At that point, I knew I was caught. I slowly look up and can see him through the crack of the door, walking to the kitchen sink with his finger in his mouth. He cut his finger. I got a boost of confidence and slowly opened his balcony door, thanking God it wasn't loud. But that confidence didn't last very long. I started thinking, what if he knows his neighbors and they don't help me? What if they're not home? What if they catch his attention and he pulls me back inside and does God knows what to me? I took a deep breath and knocked on their patio glass door, and it felt like forever until I finally heard someone walk up to the door. She looked through the glass very confused, but once she saw my face, swollen and crying from distress, she opened it. "Can I just please walk through your house to leave?" She seemed a little confused, so I said, "Please, I just want to go home," choking back tears. She guides me through her bedroom, and I see a man walking into the bedroom, and I jump, thinking it's my date coming to find me. But as I look up, I see it's a 40-something-year-old man, confusedly looks at me, and then the woman. She just nods and guides me out to the front door. She gives me a pat on the back, and I tell her thank you and rush towards my car. As I'm at the bottom of the stairs, I hear a door open. I expect to look back and see the woman, but it's my date. He is still naked, and once he sees me, he chases me. It's winter in Utah, and the ground is slippery from the ice, but I don't care. Once I finally make it to my car, I get in, lock the door, and look up to the front of his apartment. He's standing there on the top of the stairs, just staring at me. And he finally turns back and goes inside. I guess it was too cold for him to chase me all the way to my car. I hit the gas and get as far away as possible. I don't want to go home, so I drive to my parents'. I knock on my mum's bedroom window, and it's about midnight now. I tell her everything, and spend the night there. I ended up not calling the cops. I didn't want to deal with it, which I regret to this day. I don't want him to do that to another girl, but it's been so long, and I don't want to go through all that just to have them tell me I don't have enough evidence. I know I made a lot of mistakes that night, but I'm a completely changed person now, and this is why I don't use dating websites. In middle school, I met this guy online. I know, bad idea. I was stupid and going through depression and self-harm, as well as suicidal thoughts. But I met him, and at first he was so sweet and caring, and made me feel like I had something to live for. When I was down, he made me feel better. When I wanted to hurt myself, he would stop me. I started noticing a few changes in his behavior after a week. If I didn't answer right away, he'd spam and go into a full rant about me. Even if I said I wouldn't be able to talk to him, he would just kinda spam again. He started wanting nudes and stuff that I wasn't fully comfortable with, and he kind of got controlling, to the point I would have to miss a meal for him. He began to attack my appearance. I kind of initiated it myself by insulting me, so that wasn't fully his fault. I would feel self-conscious about my weight, and he would tell me to miss a meal, or two, and once 3. If I felt bad by seeing my scars, he would tell me it was my fault for them being there, which I kind of agreed with. When we had a bit of a disagreement on something, he would turn it around and attack me. He would call me all kinds of horrible things, worthless, piece of crap, along with other profanities. About 4 weeks into the relationship, he started telling me to call him daddy. As a dumb kid, I never questioned it, and thought I would do it to make him happy, and hope it didn't start a fight. Later on in the 4 weeks, he asked me if I would want a sister. I was a bit confused at this point. I forgot how old he told me he was, so I asked him that first. He told me he was 29. I was 13 at the time, and he lied to be saying that he was around my age. I should have left, but I was curious as to what he meant by a sister. I asked, and he basically said that he wanted to bring another girl into the relationship. I said no, and he did his usual thing, insulting me, belittling me, etc. So I finally built up the courage to break it off with him. He started threatening me. He told me he was going to find me and sexually assault me, and then hurt my family. I can't remember if it was around this time, but he also said he would find me, kidnap me, and do all those other things, make me become pregnant, and then sexually assault my child. I wish I was making that up. He then threatened to send the semi-sexy pictures I sent him to people he knew, and possibly my family. He said he wouldn't do it if I sent him full nudes. Terrified, I did as he asked. He made fun of my body, weight, scars, stretch marks, and picked apart my body, pointing out all the bad parts. I told one of my friends, and they told me to just block him, because he wouldn't send them. So I did, and thankfully he didn't. I swear I lucked out on that one. Fast forward a year, and I get a request on Kick. He made a new account, My dumbass saw his name and tapped accept. I wanted to curse him out and give him crap for making me want to kill myself more. But after accepting, he became apologetic. He became sweet again, and I kind of fell for his trick once more. The relationship started again, and it went down the same way as the first time. Loving and caring, clingy, insulting, attacking me, leaving him, and getting death threats. I didn't send him anything this time. I blocked him again. I'm 17 now, and still get requests from him every year. Except somehow, he found my Instagram and Snapchat. My Instagram I understand, but my Snapchat has nothing to do with my name or anything. I've kind of gotten over my suicidal thoughts, no thanks to him, and I have stopped hurting myself. But I still belittle myself because of him. No matter how many times he tries to contact me, I won't take this again. I grew a backbone, and I'm not afraid to fight back, if needed. I am in a D&D game with my friends. He had just moved and invited a lot of his old friends and his D&D party to his new house. He is 22, and most of us in the group are between 21 to 25, with only one 20-year-old. Well, our dungeon master is kind of well known in his college for being eccentric. So, when me and my boyfriend knew a girl that went to his college, whom was equally as eccentric but had a lot of things going wrong in her life, so we knew the dungeon master was cool with bringing more people in. The plan was to attempt to set up the two together, because they just seemed like they would get along, and were going to attempt to surprise our dungeon master by setting him up with a blind date at his own party. Me and my boyfriend were super excited, because he had recently broken up with a girl, and we honestly thought he had just been making her up before this incident. At the day of the party, we picked up the girl, and we showed up there late, because Courtney, the girl in question, needed to make sure she had everything before she left. When we showed up, she said she was a little nervous going in, and would be in after she'd calmed down. I offered to stay with her, but she insisted me and my boyfriend go in, and we take our gifts. We go in, we give the dungeon master his gift, and we are attempting to keep Courtney a secret, because we said we brought him another gift. Well, if that gift was, unfortunately, his most insane and petty ex, who said she knew him a little, but would like to get to know him better. We were in the party for about 30 minutes playing Super Smash Bros. Before my boyfriend decided to check on Courtney, and said he was going to shoot down to the store from some beer. Note, the dungeon master doesn't drink, so he had no alcohol in the house. He walks out, then spins around. Now I am playing and he grabs me and whispers, "Amy, we need to talk." Can it wait? I'm halfway through. It cannot wait. At this time, I hand off my controller to someone else and go outside. Courtney was not in our vehicle, and our dungeon master's truck was keyed with obscenities and had his tires slashed. It was at this point I was panicking, because we were accessories to this, and after me and my boyfriend debated running, leaving it unsaid, or telling the dungeon master we finally did the right thing, we went back inside, sat down on the couch, and waited for the courage to speak to him, but mostly for someone else to see it. At this point, me and my boyfriend were shaking, and the other people asked, and I don't do well when I'm scared. I spill it out, and soon after the dungeon master walks outside with a flashlight, and comes back, and pulls out his cell phone calling the police. Me and my boyfriend are sitting holding each other, scared as hell, as the dungeon master, whose face may as well have been on a fire skull of honey badger, looked at us and began to interrogate us before they showed up. "Why did you bring her along?" "Courtney said she wanted to know you better." Courtney was that insane girl that was lying to me and my family so she wouldn't have to pay for anything. It was at this point that we learned of the other things she did. He highlighted about her father who was dying of liver failure was a lie, and how she was lying to me and some of our other friends at college for attention. But how are we supposed to know? Sit there for a while, and I'll decide if I'm going to flay you both, the dungeon master said. Well, the police did show up, and everyone was questioned. Me and my boyfriend gave all the information we had, and we apologized profusely to the dungeon master, who, while being madder than Lucifer about his frozen ballsack at us, let us go into his games and eventually may forgive us. I am unaware if any charges were passed on to Courtney, because I do see her at college, and whenever I go to confront her, she acts like I don't know her, and some of our old friends have attempted to pursue my boyfriend and others that it was actually me who did it, who trashed his truck, because I was jealous of her. Last fall, I met a girl on Tinder. I thought it was too good to be true. She was beautiful, gave me her Snapchat, and I didn't realize to what extent she had problems until much later. As I don't have a car, I mostly walk to campus from my classes from my apartment about a 10-minute walk away. I enjoy it. I like to get my steps in. And this girl decides to basically move in with me for 2 or 3 days a week at a time. My roommate didn't even mind at first, but as her true colours are shown over the next couple of weeks, it's clear she has issues beyond being a bratty 19-year-old drug dealer. She begins to be rude to everyone, and I mean everyone, as long as she was sure she was out of earshot. She insults my siblings for being non-binary. She insults and makes fun of elements of my family, despite my personal feelings. Every time she would visit me, it became clear I was only good for 2 things: sex and potential buyers. With the exception of alcohol and marijuana, I've been clean for years now, and I'm quite proud of that. She would call me late at night to complain about personal issues that she clearly could have prevented. If she had been more careful, or even remotely cared about her family, or was not perpetually high. She takes bong rips while driving, claiming it will make her drive better. She drives terribly to begin with, by the way, even calling me after T-boning someone in a parking lot and failing to exchange insurance information with someone in a previous fender bender. Not even telling her parents or family after it, pretending her insurance issues were taken care of and lying to her family once they got a whiff of her situation. She would also frequently mention her ex and detail entire evenings while checking social media to check up on him, while she was with me. Once this guy got a new girlfriend, she started messaging and threatening her, so far as her mother had to get involved, and to this day, I'm still unsure whether she has a restraining order against her now, and eventually told me about it. I couldn't joke with her. We came from 2 different worlds. I'm 24 and come from academia, with my family being writers, scientists, and lawyers. She's 19 and, well, a drug dealer who lives with her grandma simply because she refuses to find common ground with her mother, who, as far as I can tell, simply didn't want her selling drugs in the first place, and simply wouldn't put up with her defiant attitude. She is incapable of listening and unable to accept or even hear the lightest of criticisms. Disclaimer: her dad is legitimately a terrible person. Since November, I don't think I've had a conversation with her, in person or otherwise, that wasn't completely one-sided. While she'd rant on about something trivial that could have been solved with a few words of civility and compromise, it would take her hours or even days for her to register that I was upset or not feeling well. It came to a point where I was either too uncomfortable to open up to her, or even too scared, as on occasion she'd let me know when I wasn't behaving manly enough, such as when I'd use my satchel instead of a regular book bag when I was getting ready for school, or my love of musical theatre, show tunes and what you have, thusly low-key projecting a level of toxic masculinity. I am a straight guy, comfortable with his own masculinity. I have nothing to prove, nor do I have anything to hide. She would go out of her way to make me feel horrible about anything in my life she didn't like, such as when my kitchen needed a sweep, or if I was behind on my dishes, on a weekday after class. Everyday people issues, even going as far as to take tweezers to my eyebrows without my consent, as I didn't look right. Getting closer to the present, she constantly berates me for not having a car. I pay rent, got to go to college full time, pay bills and whatnot, and I couldn't afford one. And I'm okay with that. I worked hard in my academic life, as well as work on my mental health, to be in a place where I'm doing better than I was, say, a few years ago. But apparently, what little I have and what little I've gained is subject to ridicule, and I have no say in the matter. Recently, she's taken up to using the N-word in her everyday vernacular, to my horror and disbelief. I'm lucky enough to have friends tell me this, right? I've been getting it for a little over a while now. She's rude, distrustful, and I'm simply a toy to her. I can't tell you how glad I'm lucky I have to have friends like this, that can tell me I'm too good for her. One friend in particular has been telling me to leave her since October. I should have listened. I'm a 24-year-old undergrad far from home. I was just lonely, I suppose. Despite my loneliness, though, I do have boundaries. I once got yelled at for breaking a Snapchat streak, and multiple times for leaving her message on read for more than half an hour, due to school or a commitment of some kind, or even something that demanded my focus, and even in one case, leaving my computer on while I was out, with my Facebook tab open. Anyway, cut to Monday morning. My roommate is out, I'm alone, and I had been ignoring her for 3 days. Her last message to being the effect of she wants her stuff. So here I am pretending not to be home on a Sunday. I left her stuff in a box outside my door and the lights were off. I'm staying away from my windows despite being on the second floor. Again, history of mental instability and prone to violence. Relying on natural light and turning off my thermostat to pretend I'm not here. And I type this to pass the time. Every little sound that isn't a tick from the clock is met with a mild jump. She could even have come by already and taken it. I don't know. I haven't checked. I probably won't until tonight. Until then, I'm going to shudder in the cold while I jump at every noise, because she is violent and crazy, and I have no desire for a confrontation of any kind. Years and years ago, before I met my husband, some guy added me on Facebook. He seemed legit and offered to take me out. We went out on a few dates, seemed completely normal, and he said he had a daughter that was the same age as my son, and his ex wouldn't let him see her. A few dates, and he's acting weirder and weirder, saying odd things, inconsistencies in things he had said previously, and would evade questions about work. Then I got a message from someone on Facebook saying that he wasn't who he said he was, and to be very careful. I cut things off and got on with my life. I got some text messages, but ignored those, and all went quiet for a few months. Then I was at a bar with some friends for a night. He turns up and starts following me, and won't leave me alone. I grab my friend and hide in the toilet. God bless the women in there. They've got security for me, and they threw the guy out. I go home in a taxi and fall asleep, waking up to a bang on my door at 3 a.m. Checking my phone, I have hundreds of missed calls and texts from said guy. Apparently, he had kidnapped his daughter, and was banging on my door for me to help him with this situation. I didn't answer the door and called the police. I moved somewhere new shortly after, and don't know where he is now. He is seriously messed up. One of my ex-boyfriends was/is a bit of a psychopath. At one point he threatened to rip my throat out with his teeth that he had in fact sharpened if I didn't let him do me. I really didn't want to, so I did something else instead. 2 days later I found a text message saying he'd dumped me and that I should kill myself. For the best part of 2 years, I found myself stalked by this ginger lunatic, in person, online, at school, and then at college. Know what his reason was in the end? Because I hurt his feelings. In the past, when he first asked me out, and I didn't feel comfortable with it, he'd only stopped stalking me when I got the police involved, or at least he toned down to a point where he wasn't being obvious about it. I found out he'd been harassing one of my friends, saying I'd ruin his life if he stayed a friend with me. The guy told me. Now I have a new boyfriend who knows of my ex. He's normally lovey and cuddly, but he gets very defensive of me when this topic is brought up. He's not the strongest lad I've ever known, but I think protecting the one you love can do some powerful things. I don't know if my stalker is still stalking, but I feel much less alone than I did before my new boyfriend. He is so comforting with it. I was stalked by an ex for about 6 or 7 months. After we broke up, he enrolled at my university. Now this university is huge. There are people I know who also attend the school, and I've never run into them once in 4.5 years. My ex found me on campus every single day. This really unsettled me, to the point where I made sure I didn't hang out in the same space too often, but he still found me. He was constantly blowing up my phone too. We had decided we would try and stay friends, but he took that to the next level. If I didn't answer every single text he sent within a very small amount of time, he'd call and scream at me, or call me names over text. He'd find my car around town and leave notes on my windshield. Finally, I exploded and told him to leave me alone. I'm a very quiet person, and he was not used to me standing up to him, so I guess it worked. He dropped out of the university and didn't try to contact me again. I blocked him on everything, just to be sure. Okay, so my old friend was having a birthday party. I didn't know my ex was invited. I was asking people who was invited a few weeks before, but no one knew, not even the birthday girl. I get there, hang out with the birthday girl, and we talk for a bit about random things. It was getting awkward as not knowing what to say, and we didn't speak much. We head downstairs and wait for people to start arriving. Once they do, I hang out with the few people I knew, and then go to check on who else arrived, and it was my ex. I was confused but didn't care. I said hello, and she jumped on me and hugged me to death. I didn't like being touched. It's a fear stemming from my PTSD. I let it slide, seeing as she hadn't seen me for a few months. Well, normal party stuff goes on. The opening of presents and eating lots of food and getting cake, though I ate nothing, while others were hanging out, and when the last of the presents was being opened, she asked me to come upstairs. I didn't think much of it, so I agreed to this, and we wait until everything is done. We go upstairs. It kind of unnerved me a bit, but I didn't think much. We start talking, and she admits she still liked me, grabbed my face, and just kisses me, and kept telling me how beautiful I was. It creeped the hell out of me, and how we should have never broken up. I get up as we're sitting on the bed upstairs and walk out of the room. and run down the few people down to the basement where the party was going on and where people were. A few people I knew came to me after and asked me about it, and saw how unnerved I was, but didn't step in. I didn't know what to say, but after that she would follow me around for the 2 hours of the party, and after we were settling down and everyone was watching a movie, I headed upstairs and she followed. She pulls me into the bathroom and we talked for a bit. I was getting stressed. I have social anxiety, but I try to work on getting out there more and more. And after a few minutes of her calling me pretty and touching my face, she pushes me against the door, which made a thud, and no one noticed. She tried to kiss me. I turned my face away, and she acts all offended. I reach for the door and she jumps on it, blocking the door so I couldn't get out. I'm here thinking to myself, are you kidding me? I wanted nothing to do with this. I told her I wasn't ready for a relationship. That seemed reasonable to me. And then she comes back with, who hurt you? Why don't you want to be? Please give it another shot. I say, that's my business. I keep trying to open the door as she keeps asking who hurt me. I won't tell her because it's my business. And I manage to pull the door open and go into the room with most of the people, but she didn't care. She'd put her hand on my thigh and rub it, or she'd touch my face and put her arm around me. I felt so uncomfortable, I left. This may not be as bad as what others have experienced, but I felt scared and uncomfortable throughout those 6 or 7 hours. Not to mention I don't think she showered. She smelled and was all greasy. She also spat when she spoke. Like I say, this may not be as bad, but I honestly do not want any contact with her at all, ever again. We had a great relationship at first. Honeymoon phase, talks of marriage, house, and the future. But then you got mad because I was depressed, and I didn't want to do it every day. You physically held me down and trapped me in rooms, but I stayed. You hit yourself because you couldn't hit me, but I stayed. You cheated on me in my own house and lied to me about it. But it's okay because you thought of me the whole time. So stupidly, I stayed. You moved in with your best friend who was trying to ruin our relationship from the beginning, and the girl you cheated on me with, but promised to see me every day, so I stayed. You let your skank slander my name everywhere. You let her threaten and harass me. You started ignoring me for her. You started sleeping in her bed when she wasn't there, because your dumb ass decided to move into a 2-bedroom with 3 people. That's when I had enough, so I left you. I told you to leave me alone. I told her to leave me alone as well. Did she? No. So I did what anyone does when they've had enough of the harassment. I called the cops. I'm not the crazy ex-girlfriend because I was looking out for mine and my family's sanity. So stop telling people. Stop telling your sister she can't be friends with us. Stop telling your mum I can't call her mum when she asked me to. Just stop. You lost your chance to ever get back into my life again. I'm sure if people heard this, and not just your and her side, they wouldn't think that I was the crazy one. I dated this guy for maybe a month, maybe a little more. In 11th grade, he was an alright guy, and a decent boyfriend. He also had a pretty bad limp, and was sort of weird. I thought it was the good kind of weird. This is relevant. But he kept springing up when we get married, or when we have kids, or when we live together. Yikes. So I broke things off with him because it was getting a little weird. He seemed fine when I actually did it, and told me to have a nice day and everything. About 15 minutes after that, he starts blowing up my phone saying how he knew that I told my friends that I thought he was ugly and retarded and a creep and a bunch of other stuff, all of which was not true. My best friend at the time, though, did not like him and thought he was really creepy and the bad kind of weird. She was probably the one saying that stuff, or at least something similar. He didn't believe me when I said that I'd never said any of that, and he tried spreading rumors about the school about me. Thankfully, people called him out on his bullcrap. I smoked in high school, and still do, and there was this area behind the gym where everyone would smoke. He would always be there, even though he did not, claiming that he was there in case anyone needed a spare lighter, since he always had 4 in his bag for some reason. He would just keep staring at me, trying to talk to me, but I didn't want to have anything to do with him, so I would always bring a friend. It was like that until the end of 11th grade. To cut a long story short, we broke up and she kept sending me nudes. Then one day just stops and acts like I'm the worst person in the world. She wouldn't give me the rest of my belongings back or my dog. Finally, I did get the dog back after 2 months, after putting her on blast on social media. Oh, and then 6 months later, she logged into my PayPal and sent herself $75. Oh, and at some point, she logged into my Slacker radio account and deleted all the playlists I curated for years, and added all Christian music and kid music. Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed tonight's installment. If you did, don't forget to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you're new, I do post new videos every night, so be sure to hit subscribe and press the bell icon for good measure, and not miss your nightly spooks. If there's a story that you wish to share and would like read in a future episode, feel free to send it to my email or my Reddit. Either are fine, just please be sure to include plenty of punctuation, paragraphing, and description to maximize the chances of your story being read. But anyway, for now guys, I'm gonna sign off. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.